I think I definitely have to agree as far as like your perception of LeVay goes. And there's another YouTuber, Sticks Hexenhammer 666, who
Right.
does a lot of occult related stuff, and
Yeah.
he's elucidated about the same sort of thought. Is that with people like LeVay, it's not a place that you start and end with. It's something that you begin with, like you said, knock those doors, like kick those doors open, but the rest of the work is kind of left up to you. And
Right.
especially with the ability to look back at LeVay's work now and see how a lot of it isn't, shall we say, academically, above board. It's not a lot of it is plagiarized and things like that, and there are
Yeah.
issues that you can get into. But as far as like as for an initiate, someone who doesn't really know what's going on, I myself fell in that category. I got that same LeVay's work when I was 16. Actually, I was 13, and then I got my physical copy when I was 16. Thank the internet for that, that first
Right.
introduction there. But definitely figures like Nicholas Shrek and Xena, like they fought back in the 80s and the 90s, their appearances with Bob Larson and
Yeah.
all of that was very almost mind blowing for someone who had been raised a certain way and sort of indoctrinated into the same belief system. It's very liberating, even if a lot of it isn't necessarily verifiable. It's a way to get yourself out of a box and to start thinking about things a little bit more differently.
Yeah. I just learning, okay, the left-hand path. Now, the first time I heard it or heard of it was from reading LeVay. So I had to search that out. What was that all about? What, is there more to it than simply Satanism? And yeah, there's quite a bit more.
A lot more and more that keeps building, and as it keeps growing and expanding with newer generations getting involved in it, and now we have the internet, so a lot of these old sources like you walk into any bookstore now, you're going to see the Kabbalion, you're going to see the Hermetica, you're going to find the Poetic and Prose Edda from the Norse
Right.
sagas, you're going to find all of these different books and resources that were almost impossible to get a hold of even 20, 30 years ago, at least for a reasonable price. Like a lot of it is a lot more available and easy to find now, so for those who are truly interested in it, they can find it and they can read it and hopefully understand it in a way that not everybody could.
Yeah, online. I mean, it's easy now. Before it was almost impossible. You would have to go to these obscure little hole in the wall bookstores and hope they had it. But now, yeah, just go to Amazon. There you go.
Which of course has its drawbacks, like we had mentioned earlier. Like one of the things that I remember when I was like, I think when I first, this is a bit of a personal anecdote, but when I first heard of the sect, I think I was like 16, 17, and I found it on the internet. I came across your YouTube channel, which I definitely like to
Mm.
get into because your work that you do on there, even just telling stories or doing a brief little lecture, like that really goes a long way in terms of like building a community
Yeah.
and getting people actively interested in it. But finding that channel when I was like 16, 17 was again really exciting because I'm like, oh, other people, like they're there, they're not completely out of reach.
Yeah.
What what series of events led to you starting something like the sect? Because like we had mentioned earlier, it's not really a community or forum so much as it is a place to learn and a place to grow, and it has a very unique structure. Where did that come from and what motivated that, like just stemming from your own path and how it had been going at that time?
Well, like I was saying, okay, initially a Satanist, and I could still basically say I am a Satanist as codified by LeVay as a trait. You know what I mean? Like a characteristic.
Yeah.
Like LeVay said, you're born a Satanist. A person with an independent spirit with maybe a darker aesthetic or whatever. So I am that. But my philosophy has evolved, and part of that is for a while I got into like searching out Druidism, for instance, because I'm very Celtic. So I got interested in Druidism, but I noticed that this modern Druidism is so full of shit. The big problem with a lot of modern paganism is they incorporate this light dark perspective, duality, if you will, which didn't exist in ancient paganism. The gods and so on and so forth were like a force of nature. A force of nature is neither good nor bad. Sometimes good things happen, sometimes bad things happen. But anyway, got into Druidism as best as we can know about Druidism, since the Druids didn't really write anything down. and still with a satanic edge to my paganism, if you will, left-hand path paganism. And then I eventually I was a little late to get online. I didn't get online until about 12 years ago. And I thought, okay, cool. This, I can get on these forums and so on and so forth and communicate with like-minded people, civil, intelligent, we can go back and forth with ideas about Satanism and the left-hand path and different forms of left-hand path paganism or whatever. Wow. I could not believe how many fucking dicks there are within the satanic community online. It blew me away. And I would watch them just like skewer these people who were newbies, these neophytes that were just asking simple questions, not even dumb questions, but just simple beginner type questions. And they would get their ass handed to them. And I was thinking to myself, what's this all about? I come to realize that they're putting down people that they would, if they saw face to face, first off, they wouldn't speak that way to them. And second, they probably get along with them. But they had to show that they were adversaries because Satan, and I saw somebody write this too, Satan means adversary, so I'm adversarial. I thought, this is a fucking joke. So it was a combination of that. And also, Lisa and I, we used to put on events at a winery that we were the caretakers on. We also owned a bookstore in the winery, but unfortunately, we lost everything in one of these Northern California fires. And one of the events we put on was a pagan festival. And the people were cool, got along with them fine. But I was kind of checking out their interpretation of the horn god, if you will. And I realized that he had been basically neutered. He had become the boy toy of the goddess. The goddess was everything. So I was like, oh, geez. So I wasn't crazy about that either. So you had the combination of, the bullshit Satanist and the silly, weak, I guess you could say in my eyes, pagans. So I figured I got to do something about this. So it was November 1st, 2011, we launched the Sect of the Horn God. And also, there's a quote from LeRoy, I forget the exact words, but basically he compares Pan and Satan. Basically he says, why reject an old friend just because he bears a new name and unjustified stigma? And also, there's another LeRoy quote, they, as in pagans, they play the devil's game but won't take the devil's name. So I thought, we need to inject more of the, let's say, left-hand path perspective into paganism, and hence the Sect of the Horn God. And we wanted to, in a sense, welcome people in. People had questions, you have a place to go. You're not going to get your ass handed to you. At the same time, if you're a troll, you're gone. If you're rude, you're gone. But if you're just curious, come on in. We'll welcome you. You can check it out, maybe learn a little something.